Futurama never played it safe with time. Instead of keeping history intact, the crew treated it like a toy to break.
You've got a surprising amount of algae in your beard, Mr. President. Just sit still and let the algae eater do its work.
From Roswell's alien crash to colonial America, and even Fry tinkering with his own destiny, these episodes show how easily one bad choice can twist the timeline. Welcome to Futurama's wildest dives into the past. Let's kick things off with one of the most famous trips into history the crew ever took. Roswell That Ends Well, Season 3, Episode 19. The episode begins in the year 3002, with the crew watching a supernova from space. It should be a quiet, impressive event. Instead, Fry decides to microwave a bag of Jiffy Pop. Only he doesn't understand that putting metal in the microwave is a bad idea. The radiation from the popcorn pan mixes with the energy from the supernova, and just like that, the entire ship is hurled back in time. The crash landing site: Roswell, New Mexico, in the summer of 1947. If you know your conspiracy theories, you already see where this is going. The crash itself is classic Futurama chaos. Bender, refusing to wear his seatbelt, is thrown through the windshield and shattered into pieces across the desert. Zoidberg, for once, survives without a scratch, but that just makes him a target. Local military forces scoop up Bender's body and Zoidberg, mistaking them for alien invaders. For once, they're not wrong.
Dun, dun, dun. The debris from an alien spaceship.
While the professor scrambles to figure out how to build a time device using mid-20th century technology,
Flying saucer captured.
That's no flying saucer. That's my ass.
Fry gets a personal warning. Farnsworth tells him to stay far away from his grandfather, Enos, who just happens to be stationed at the Roswell military base. If Fry tampers with the past, he could erase himself from existence. Fry promises to be careful, which is about as reassuring as putting Zap Brannigan in charge of a daycare. Fry's plan to keep Enos safe is predictably the dumbest one possible. Each attempt to save him brings him closer to death. He locks his grandfather inside a desert shack, thinking it will keep him out of harm's way. Unfortunately, that shack is scheduled for a nuclear bomb test. Enos goes up in smoke, and Fry realizes too late that babysitting your own grandfather is harder than it looks. This should mean Fry fades out of existence, but he's still standing there. Conclusion: Enos wasn't really his grandfather. Cue the entrance of Mildred, Enos's grieving fiancée. Fry comforts her, and when she makes a move, he hesitates for about 3 seconds before deciding that if he's still alive, it must be fine. Of course, the next morning, the professor casually points out that Mildred was his grandmother all along.
She can't be my grandmother. I figured it all out. Of course she's your grandmother, you perverted dope!
Fry has officially made himself his own grandfather.
If she's my grandmother, who's my grandfather? You are!
It's as disturbing as it is hilarious. A perfect Futurama mix of sci-fi logic and bad life choices. Meanwhile, Zoidberg is being dissected by the military, and somehow he doesn't even mind. Instead of screaming in pain, he treats the whole thing like a free spa treatment. Soldiers are baffled as he rambles on about his anatomy, and the gag works perfectly because it's the one time a captured alien doesn't resist his captors. He actually enjoys it. Bender doesn't fare as well. His body is locked in a military vault while his head rolls around separately, which means he spends most of the episode stuck in pieces. Sarcastic as ever, but completely helpless. The rest of the crew must rescue their friends and secure a radar dish that can work as a substitute for the microwave. Breaking into a high-security base should be impossible, but this is Futurama, so they do it with minimal effort. Leela, Farnsworth, and Fry sneak inside, grab Zoidberg, collect Bender's body, and make off with the radar dish, all while triggering a few explosions and confusing the local troops. The escape plan works well enough, except Bender's head is accidentally left behind in 1947. His body gets launched back to the 31st century, but his head has to wait more than 1,000 years buried in the desert before being dug up and reattached. It's grim, but Bender doesn't seem too bothered. He probably enjoyed the time off. The episode ends with the crew safely back in 3002, their problems apparently solved, though Fry now has to live with the knowledge that he's literally his own ancestor. This time travel logic makes no sense, but that's exactly the point. Futurama leans into the grandfather paradox with both feet, making Fry's stupidity the key to history's survival. Without him making that terrible decision, the timeline might never have worked out. So the show answers the big question of, what if you killed your own grandfather with the most ridiculous solution possible? Just replace him. If Fry can ruin his own bloodline, then Farnsworth can certainly ruin the nation's. That's where the heads of past presidents come in. All the President's Heads. Season 6, Episode 23. The episode kicks off with Professor Farnsworth dragging the crew into the Planet Express conference room to show off his family tree. He rolls out a massive scroll covered in portraits of Farnsworths through the ages, proudly pointing out all the scientists, inventors, and noble figures who carried his name. That night, Fry reports to his side job at the Head Museum. His task is simple: clean and maintain the jars that keep the preserved presidential heads alive and talkative. Instead, Fry neglects his duties, throws together a late-night gathering at their request, and invites the Planet Express crew. Mixing alcohol with centuries of political egos quickly sets the stage for disaster. As the party heats up, things get sloppy. Beer is flowing, Zoidberg is helping himself to snacks, and someone accidentally drinks some of the liquid from a presidential jar. Turns out that the fluid contains powdered opalescence, which has bizarre time-bending properties. The crew suddenly finds themselves slipping backward in time, not for hours but for centuries, landing briefly in different eras whenever the opal takes effect. One moment they're in the 1960s, the next they're face to face with the very presidents whose heads are in jars, then again in an old-style bar. It's drunken chaos, with history itself wobbling under their clumsy footsteps. Farnsworth is over the moon after realizing they've stumbled on a brand new way to travel through time. In his head, it's already being named the Farnsworth effect.
I've discovered a new means of time travel. I'll call it the Farnsworth effect.
But before he can enjoy the glory, George Washington's head cuts him down with one sharp line. No amount of discovery will erase the shame of his ancestor, David.
But even this discovery won't undo the treachery wrought by your nefarious ancestor, David Farnsworth.
The traitor who forged money for the British. Farnsworth's pride instantly turns into rage. Determined to fix his family's reputation, he decides the only answer is to go back in time and stop David himself. Without hesitation, he tips back Washington's jar and slurps up every drop of the opal-laced fluid. The result? Not just him, but Fry, Leela, and Bender are all yanked into the past, landing smack in colonial America right on 68th Broadway. But colonial America isn't exactly welcoming. They first stumble into Benjamin Franklin's print shop in Philadelphia, where David Farnsworth is supposedly making counterfeit money. But David slips away, leaving behind one of his fake Massachusetts coins. Franklin, never one to waste a chance to show off, pulls out a kite, ties a metal key to it, straps the whole thing to Bender. The result is less science and more cartoon electrocution, but Franklin beams with pride anyway. Boston brings them to Paul Revere's silver shop, where Revere is getting ready for his famous midnight ride. When the crew questions Paul Revere, he admits he hired David Farnsworth for a rush of candlesticks, and that David is at the foundry. They break in. Farnsworth confronts David. David grabs a bezelling planisher, but Leela rips it away and decks him. Then a fight breaks out. Farnsworth finishes it by whacking David with a candlestick and cheers like he's saved the whole family line. Just then, Revere gets word. British troops are moving. He runs to the Old North Church to wait for the signal. History note: 1 lantern means by land, 2 lanterns mean by sea. While the crew gets busy burying the counterfeits to protect the economy, Fry, being Fry, grabs 1 church lantern for fire. That leaves 1 lantern in the window. Revere sees it and thinks the British are coming by land. Great. History now points the wrong way, and all thanks to Fry. But before they could do anything, the opal wears off. The crew snaps back to their own time. But it's not their world anymore. The United States no longer exists. The British won the war, and the country is now West Britannia, a colony still under the crown. Farnsworth has been elevated to nobility, his traitor ancestor celebrated as a hero, and David's face is on coins. Everyone else is stuck living in a world of bowler hats and British accents. It's a nightmare, unless you're the professor, who secretly enjoys having a little aristocratic clout. Of course, they can't leave history like this. The problem is that they used up the entire opal supply. Luckily, Farnsworth was called by the Queen, where he notices jewels on the crown, which just happen to contain a huge Andamuka opal. He swipes it in record time, and soon they're back to their original era. It's a time travel story that shows how fragile history is when the wrong people get involved, and how dumb luck is sometimes the only thing keeping the timeline together. So which feels more dangerous? David Farnsworth counterfeiting, or Fry's inability to keep his hands off a lantern. Either way, the revolution barely survived, and America owes its freedom to the most unlikely heroes imaginable. The Why of Fry. Season 4, Episode 10. Fry wakes up feeling useless. Everyone else, Leela, Bender, just came back from a mission without him.
We're back from the mission!
You went without me?
You were looking up curse words in the dictionary. It seemed like a better use of your time.
Fry hates being left out. On top of that, Leela was going on a date with Chaz. This disheartened him even more. Later, Leela asks Fry to walk Nibbler as she's with Chaz. Fry feels like his only job is picking up after Nibbler, but Nibbler says he's more important than that. Yes, you're right, Nibbler can talk.
The poop eradication is but one aspect of your importance.
He knocks Fry out and takes him to Eternium, the Niblonians' home world. On Eternium, the small but super wise Niblonians explain something huge. Fry doesn't have a delta brainwave, because of what he did in Roswell That Ends Well by making him his own grandfather. It turns out this makes him immune to the brain spawn, a group of evil walking brains who want to collect all knowledge in the universe, store it in a giant memory bank called the Infosphere, then destroy everything else. Everyone else gets mind attacked, but Fry can think through it, as his missing brainwave makes him sort of invisible to them. He's the only one who can stop them. The Niblonians give Fry a special bomb that can trap the Infosphere in another dimension. To help him escape, they also provide a tiny toy spaceship. Fry heads out to plant the bomb, but he can't resist poking around their computer first. That small distraction is enough for the brain spawn to notice him. Suddenly exposed, Fry has no choice but to press the vessel and activate the bomb. The brain spawn then asks him if he really knows what happened on December 31st, 1999. Curious, Fry admits he wants to know, and they show him a flashback of that night, the night he was frozen. Fry always thought it was an accident. Now he sees that Nibbler pushed him into the cryogenic tube. It was planned, so Fry could come to the future and help save everything. Then there's another twist. The brain spawn offer Fry a chance to go back in time to stop Nibbler from freezing him. Fry accepts. He gets transported to the past, stands behind Nibbler under a desk just before his past self falls into the cryogenic tube. Fry struggles with Nibbler. Nibbler tells Fry he must be sent to the future, otherwise the whole universe dies. Fry, even though confused, sees that Nibbler is scared and serious. Fry's love for Leela comes up. He says if he could save her, he would. Nibbler tells him not to give up on her. Afterwards, Fry tips himself into the tube, and the timeline stays correct. Back in the future, Fry plants the bomb again, this time with a better escape ship. The bomb works, sends the Infosphere away, and everyone is safe. Nibbler then gives Fry a flower. Before Fry can say more, Nibbler wipes Fry's memory of all of this. Fry gives the flower to Leela. She tells him she's glad to see him and kisses him. Fry may never remember why, but he feels like he matters. Fry travels to his own past, touches a moment everyone thought was random, and makes sure it stays that way because the universe depends on it. Fry is always the one who messes things up, but here his weird brainwave makes him the hero. And just when Fry thinks life without Leela is unbearable, the professor unveils a gadget that rewinds time itself. Meanwhile, Season 7, Episode 26. This is the kind of episode that says, if the universe had a pause button, I'd smash it just to see what happens. It opens with a roller coaster style disaster at Luna Park, the same spot where the crew made their very first delivery. The ride malfunctions, sending Leela flying into space. Fry is devastated when the Moon Patrol team tells him they've recovered her stuffed animal, but that Leela herself is gone. For a moment, it feels like he's lost her forever. But then comes the twist. Leela had actually hidden inside the stuffed animal to survive. When she emerges safe and sound, Fry is overwhelmed with relief. That brush with loss makes one thing clear to him. Life without Leela is unthinkable. And that's when he decides it's time to propose. Back at Planet Express, the professor unveils his greatest and weirdest invention yet, the time button. Press it, and the universe jumps 10 seconds into the past. Everyone except those inside a time shelter forgets what just happened. Fry immediately thinks of something crafty. He's gonna use that time button for his benefit. He went to a diamond shop with Bender to buy a perfect diamond for a ring for Leela. He asks the shopkeeper for a diamond and stores it inside Bender's compartment. Before the shopkeeper could say anything, he clicks that button and time goes back 10 seconds. and he did it again and again. At a restaurant, Fry finally proposes to Leela. He asks Elzar to bring out a clam, and inside it sits a sparkling diamond ring. Leela is thrilled, but when she reaches for it, the clam suddenly snaps shut, slicing her hand. She screams in pain until Fry, panicking, hits the time button to rewind 10 seconds. This time he opens the clam himself, avoiding disaster. Leela is touched, though she admits the proposal feels sudden after 13 years. Fry stops her from answering right away and instead reveals a bigger plan. He's rented the rooftop of the Vampire State building at 6:30 p.m. for a romantic sunset proposal. If her answer is yes, she should meet him there. If not, she shouldn't show up. At sunset, Fry waits, convinced she'll come. But his watch reads 7:02, and Leela isn't there. Heartbroken, he assumes she said no and jumps off the building. Mid-fall, he spots Leela arriving, only to realize his watch was off because constant rewinds desynced it. The real time was 6:25. He tries to rewind 10 seconds over and over again, but can't undo the fall, trapping himself in a time loop. Farnsworth notices the endless resets and rushes in, but the chaos ends when Fry lands on Bender's airbag. He survives, but the time button shatters, freezing the universe. Now only Fry and Leela can move. With time stopped, they travel, marry, and grow old together, living decades in a silent world. Eventually, they spot a glowing tunnel. It's Farnsworth, who explains he has been drifting in orthogonal time. He repairs the button, resetting everything back before it begins. The world forgets, but Fry and Leela's bond remains timeless. From Roswell blunders to colonial slip-ups to Fry breaking time itself, Futurama shows that the present, and even the past, are never safe with the Planet Express crew. Whether it's rewriting revolutions, becoming your own grandfather, or freezing the entire universe for love, these stories prove the show could twist history into comedy gold. Think one time travel disaster tops them all? Drop it in the comments. Hit like if you enjoy watching timelines collapse, and subscribe for more dives into animation's funniest catastrophes.